Imagine you are standing on this concrete dock right at dawn, and you're just looking out at the water.
Yes, setting the scene.
Right. And you are watching this massive, imposing cargo ship just like glide into the harbor. The paint is fresh, the containers are perfectly stacked, and the engines sound incredibly smooth.
It looks completely flawless.
Exactly. If you just look at it from the shoreline, you'd think, man, that is a flawless vessel.
I mean, it projects total stability. You look at it, and you just naturally assume everything is working exactly as it should be.
But what you can't see, what is completely, hidden beneath the waterline, is this massive jagged gash in the hull from a storm it hit like 3 days ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's taking on water, it is structurally compromised, but from where you're standing on the dock, it looks absolutely fine.
Which is, well, it's a terrifying disconnect when you really think about it.
Right.
We rely so heavily on what is visibly obvious to assess safety. Like, we just naturally assume that if something looks intact on the outside, the internal mechanics, must be intact too.
And that disconnect is exactly what a designated safeguarding lead or a DSL deals with every single day.
Yeah, it's a perfect parallel.
It really is. So welcome to today's deep dive, where our mission is to explore this really fascinating document. It's titled Series 4, What a DSL Can Learn From a Harbour Master.
And just for anyone unfamiliar with the acronym, DSLs are they're the professionals in schools and organizations whose entire job is to protect students.
Right, just keeping them safe from harm.
Exactly. And this document takes the incredibly complex, high-stakes world of maritime harbor management, and it uses it as a blueprint for safeguarding leadership.
Which sounds totally wild at first.
It does, but it draws these direct structural parallels between managing thousands of tons of ocean vessels and, well, managing the emotional and physical safety of students.
Yeah, at first glance, comparing kids to cargo ships sounds like a massive stretch. Like, what?
A huge stretch.
But the deeper we go into this source material, the more it actually reveals about, the deception of appearances. The source makes it really clear that a harbor is a place of constant, almost chaotic movement.
Right. Ships arrive, they depart, the weather changes.
Yeah, the risks fluctuate by the minute.
And the text draws this really sharp contrast in how these vessels arrive. Some enter smoothly, they're well-maintained, stable, completely predictable.
But the others?
Right, others arrive having just been battered by storms. They're carrying these hidden structural or mechanical problems, even while looking perfectly stable externally.
Okay, let's unpack this, because this is where the document translates that maritime reality right into the school environment.
Yeah, the translation is key here.
It's like looking at a swan gliding across a lake, right? Perfectly serene on top, but paddling frantically beneath the surface. A student might appear highly functioning. They're calm, they're getting straight A's, they're starring in the school play, whatever.
Super engaged socially, all that.
Exactly. But privately, they might be experiencing trauma or exploitation, or they're just on the absolute brink of an emotional collapse.
What's fascinating here is how the text frames this. It introduces this concept it calls a professional truth.
Oh, I loved this part.
It's so good. And that truth is that some of the most deeply vulnerable students become, incredibly highly skilled at appearing fine. They literally learn to mask their distress.
See, I'm genuinely struggling with this idea a bit.
How so?
Well, if a kid is getting straight A's, if they're socially active and seemingly just thriving, my instinct isn't danger. My instinct is, oh, they're doing great.
Sure, that's the natural human response.
Right. So how is a teacher or a safeguarding lead supposed to tell the difference between genuine success and, camouflage? Are we really supposed to look at high achievement and assume it's a risk?
Well, not inherently, no.
Right.
But the danger lies in assuming achievement automatically equals emotional safety.
Ah, okay.
The masking the text describes often operates through the very thing society praises. It looks like high-functioning anxiety. It looks like crushing perfectionism.
It's a performance.
Exactly. It's a social performance that is completely exhausting for the individual, but it effectively hides a profound emotional struggle from all the adults around them.
Oh, wow. It's like an engine running in the red.
That's a great way to put it.
Like a car going 80 miles an hour down the highway looks impressive. It's moving fast. It's passing everyone else. But if you actually look under the hood, the engine is completely overheating.
The oil is totally gone.
Right. And the entire block is about to just seize up from the exertion. The speed is actually a symptom of an impending breakdown, not a sign of a healthy vehicle.
That is exactly the mechanism at play. The exertion required to maintain that outward perfection is what eventually breaks the system.
So the DSL has to look past the grades.
They have to. If a DSL only looks for the traditional signs of distress, the failing grades, the acting out, the visible tears, they're going to completely miss the ships that are quietly sinking while looking perfectly polished on the outside.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though.
Yeah.
If we know that if we suspect an engine is about to seize, or a ship has a hidden gash below the waterline, isn't the safest bet to just shut everything down and investigate?
You think so?
Like, the document talks heavily about this threshold judgment thing and choosing to simply observe sometimes. But if you suspect a student is in danger, why is observation ever an acceptable risk? Why wouldn't you immediately escalate every single concern just to be completely safe?
Because you can't just shut down the harbor every time the wind blows.
I guess that's true.
Right. If a harbor master treats a slightly worn engine the exact same way they treat a massive hull breach, commerce halts, chaos ensues, and they just lose all credibility.
The boy who cried wolf.
Exactly. This system simply collapses under the weight of false alarms. So the source anchors its response in this philosophy of proportionality.
Okay, I understand the logistics for ships, right? But we are talking about human beings here.
And the stakes are exactly why proportionality matters so much. Overreacting or, over-pathologizing a student can actually cause immense harm.
How so?
Let's trace how that actually works structurally. Imagine a student finally builds up the courage to confide in a teacher about, a minor but distressing argument with a friend. It's temporary turbulence.
Right, a totally normal part of growing up.
Exactly. But if that teacher panics and immediately escalates it to the principal, calls the parents, and initiates this huge formal intervention protocol, what lesson does that student learn?
Oh, I see. They learn that if they speak up, they completely lose control of their own life.
Precisely. By overreacting to a minor issue, the system inadvertently ensures the student will hide the major issues later. The trust is just broken.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah, so building confidence in threshold judgment means knowing the vital difference between that temporary turbulence and immediate structural danger.
So a harbor master is constantly deciding which vessels need immediate emergency intervention and which ones just need, a closer inspection at the dock.
Yes, and which ones can simply be granted safe passage with observation.
Okay, the document mentions relational support as an alternative to crisis response. For those listening who might be outside the education sphere, what does that actually look like in practice?
Well, relational support is essentially structured oversight without all the alarms.
Okay.
Instead of calling a formal parent meeting, a teacher might just quietly check in with the student, maybe twice a week after class.
Just a casual, hey, how are things?
Right. Or a counselor might make sure they happen to be in the hallway during a transition period just to observe their peer interactions. It's a highly disciplined, quiet accumulation of data.
I like that. A quiet accumulation of data.
Yeah. And as the text powerfully states, safeguarding is risk navigation. It's not just crisis management.
That is such a good distinction. You don't hit the panic button, but you don't look away either. You navigate the specific risk right in front of you.
Exactly.
But, that specific risk doesn't exist in a vacuum. Like, a ship with a minor leak might be totally fine in a calm bay, but you put that same ship in a hurricane, and it's a completely different threat level.
Oh, absolutely. The environment dictates the danger. And the text outlines two crucial principles regarding the environment, starting with the context principle.
Right.
The vulnerability of a vessel fluctuates entirely based on the water it is sailing in.
And the weather for a student is their context. It's the shifting dynamics of their peer group. It's family pressures.
Exam periods, too.
Oh, for sure, the exam period. The text specifically points to online environments, too, especially during unstructured evenings, as a factor that just dramatically changes the context of risk.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the insight here is that risk is contextual. It's not static. The exact same behavior from a student signals a completely different level of risk depending on the surrounding environment.
Let's walk through that. What does that actually look like for a DSL on a Tuesday afternoon?
Sure, okay. Consider a student suddenly withdrawing from an extracurricular activity. If that happens in October during a relatively calm period, they might just be tired.
Or they just want more time to focus on, a really difficult math class.
Right. The behavior is withdrawal, but the context is calm.
But if that same student withdraws from the exact same activity in May, right after a highly publicized cyberbullying incident within their friend group,
The threat level alters entirely. The behavior is exactly the same, but the context has turned a calm bay into a raging storm.
which means the DSL has to be incredibly attuned to the weather, not just the ship. But what happens when there are simply too many ships?
Oh, right.
Because the text introduces a second principle here, which is the congestion principle.
Yes. Busy harbors become exponentially more dangerous when too many movements happen simultaneously.
That's like a pothole.
A pothole.
Yeah. Think about it. If you have a pothole on an empty, quiet suburban street, it's just a bump. You drive over it, your car rattles a little, and you move on.
Sure.
But you put that exact same pothole on a heavily congested highway during a blizzard. Cars are swerving, visibility is zero, and that single pothole causes a 10-car pileup.
That is a terrifying image, but very accurate.
Right. The pothole itself never changed size. The congestion of the environment changed everything about how lethal it was.
And that congestion is exactly what happens in a school setting when the pastoral systems are totally overloaded.
We should probably define that term quickly, as pastoral systems is quite specific to UK education and certain frameworks.
Good call.
We're essentially talking about the school's internal support networks, the school counselors, the homeroom teachers, the administrative staff who handle student well-being.
Right, the human infrastructure of care. The source makes it really clear that organizational overload inherently weakens safeguarding clarity.
It makes sense.
Yeah, risk skyrockets when those pastoral systems are bogged down by staff burnout, excessive caseloads, and communication silos.
How does a communication silo actually cause a failure in safeguarding, though? Walk us through the actual mechanics of that.
Okay, imagine a high school with like 2,000 students. A student starts falling asleep in their morning history class.
Happens all the time.
Right, so the history teacher logs it as a minor behavioral issue. Maybe they just stayed up too late playing video games. Separately, the school nurse notices the same student has come in twice this week complaining of stomach aches.
Okay.
And then separately, the athletic coach notices the student's parents haven't been picking them up from practice and the student's just walking home alone in the dark.
See, any one of those things on its own probably doesn't cross the threshold for a major intervention.
Exactly. They're just minor engine sputters. But if the system is congested, if the history teacher has 90 other students, and the nurse is dealing with an outbreak of the flu, and the coach is totally overwhelmed with logistics, they don't talk to each other.
They operate in complete silos.
Right.
Because there literally isn't enough time in the day to cross-reference every single minor detail.
Exactly. And because those dots are never connected by a DSL, no one realizes that the student's home life has actually completely collapsed.
Oh, wow.
When the harbor is too congested, the harbor master just can't see the ships clearly. When a school system is overloaded, the DSL can't see the comprehensive picture of the student. The system itself becomes a risk factor.
For you listening, I really want you to consider how this applies to your own workplace or community.
It's very applicable.
Oh, it really is. Like, how might system congestion, whether that's too many emails, understaffed departments, or just rushed handovers between shifts, be completely blinding you to risks that would otherwise be glaringly obvious? The pothole is there, but the traffic is so heavy you can't see it until you hit it.
It forces us to ask whether our systems are actually designed to notice the quiet signs of distress, or if they're, only built to respond to the loudest alarms.
So what does this all mean? That brings us to the fundamental purpose of all of this. We've navigated the hidden risks beneath the surface. We've broken down those threshold judgments of when to act, and we've mapped out how context and congestion warp our ability to see danger.
We've covered a lot of ground.
We have. But why does the harbor exist in the first place? And maybe more importantly, at what point does treating complex, developing human beings like steel cargo ships completely break down as an analogy?
Well, harbors are highly specific pieces of infrastructure, right? They are places of safety, of stabilization, and a transition. Crucially, they are not designed for permanent confinement.
Yeah, you don't bring a ship into the harbor just to chain it to the dock forever. You bring it in, you patch the hull, you fix the engine, and then you send it back out into the ocean.
Right. And the source is very explicit about this in a section titled The Honest Bit.
I love this part.
It's so refreshing. The authors acknowledge the absolute limits of their own metaphor because, obviously, students are not vessels to be rigidly controlled.
Definitely not.
Safeguarding is a deeply human-centered relational process. It is not maritime traffic management.
Yeah, human development is infinitely more emotionally complex than like an operational risk assessment matrix.
Yeah.
You can't just plug a teenager into a diagnostic machine, read the output, swap out a defective part, and push them back out to sea.
This raises an important question, which points to the core professional truth regarding the ultimate goal of all safeguarding work.
Which is
The goal is not permanent control. The goal is safe development toward autonomy and well-being.
agency, just
Yeah.
giving them the ability to navigate their own lives.
Exactly. The leadership layer we have been dissecting, learning to assess beneath appearances, calibrating those difficult thresholds, reading the environmental context. It is all ultimately about building developmental pathways.
Yeah.
It is about providing guided support that actually leads to personal agency. The harbor master fixes the ship so it can sail independently. The DSL supports the student so they can eventually weather their own storms without needing the harbor at all.
Good judgment, whether we are talking about institutional safeguarding, managing a corporate team, or just looking out for the people in our own families, is such a delicate balance.
It really is.
It is neither panic nor complacency. It requires incredibly careful observation. It requires us to really understand the water people are swimming in. And most importantly, it demands the calm, disciplined ability to assess what lies beneath a seemingly stable, highly polished surface.
And as we conclude, the source leaves us with a profound system-level challenge that applies far beyond the walls of a school. Look closely at your own environment. Ask yourself, which individuals currently appear entirely seaworthy on the outside, but might quietly be carrying immense emotional strain that is completely invisible from a distance?
Who is running their engine in the red just to keep up appearances?
Exactly.
It fundamentally changes how you perceive the success and competence of everyone around you. But I do want to leave you with one final thought to mull over, building on that idea of transition versus confinement.
Okay, let's hear it.
We established that the ultimate goal of the harbor is to develop a student's resilience and agency so they can eventually leave and navigate the ocean on their own. But what happens when a student feels too safe in the harbor and they simply refuse to sail back out?
Oh, wow.
How do safeguarding systems, or really any protective environments, prepare a deeply vulnerable individual to voluntarily face the open water storms they have been so carefully and so lovingly shielded from?
That is the true tension between providing care and fostering autonomy.
The next time you find yourself looking at a system or a person that seems flawlessly managed, remember to look past the fresh paint. Think about what is happening beneath the waterline. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive.